It's okay if anyone chose to boast within the compound of his achievement and accomplishment. But I think it is forbidden for us to allow the flare of our greatness push us to a level of desecrating the legacy of people whose efforts are part of the reason for our achievements. I think it is still understandable if Wizkid's fanatics chose to say anything that is weave around hype, accolades, and encomium, but it is an act of insolence for Wizkid to say that he is greater than Fela. To be candid, I didn't really want to say anything about this trending issue because I just assumed that most people doing this comparison doesn't really know who Fela was and who he is. But over time, I found it necessary to say something. And that is because this issue isn't just about Wizkid and Fela. It is a reflection of this generation with their ruthlessness to others via their ignorance and arrogance. And I also think this is one of the dangers of early exposure to money and luxury. Money is good, but too much money at early stage could damage character and mode of reasoning. Early wealth can make a young person proud and arrogant, and as well acting bigger than they truly are. Fame without wisdom could lead to reckless talk. Tọmọdé bá kọyán alẹ́ àwọn àgbà fọ̀rọ̀ ìtàn balẹ̀. Ẹ wá wò báwọn ọmọdé ìwòyí ṣe fi yán ń ṣàbàṣà. Ẹ̀yin àgbà sì fọwọ́ lérán. Ẹ wá ń wò wọ́n bá ṣe fìbàjẹ́ ń ṣayọ̀. Ẹni kí wèrè ó ṣòkú ìyá ẹ̀ bó ṣe wù ú. Wèrè mà ti fẹ́ máa ṣòkú ìyá ẹ̀ jẹ́ ẹ̀ ṣe sọ̀rọ̀. Without engaging too much of your time, I want to brief you about this slender man with a giant spirit. Olufela Anikulapo Omokuti. I'll be doing this by addressing 3 questions some Gen Z asked me. 1. How popular is Fela Anikulapo? Before I answer this question, permit me to laugh. There are a lot of measures to reveal his popularity, but let me just tell you a story. In 1991, there was a concert tagged African Child. It was sponsored by many big names across Africa and other continents. As a matter of fact, Nigeria head of state as at that time, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, gave a speech in regard of this concert, which happened right there in Lagos. Many enigmatic musicians around the world graced this concert in Lagos. The Commodore, Shabarang, Third Word, Kool and the Gang, Miriam Makeba, Joseph Shabalala leading the Ladysmith Black Mumbazo, Rita Marley leading Bob Marley and the Wailers, the great Hugh Masekela. These are just to mention few. Àwọn tiwa náà gbẹ̀yìn ń bẹ̀. Shina Peter, Onyeka Oweno, Majek Fasher, Sonny Okosun, and many more. By the virtue of this concert and the cause which it stood for, Fela Anikulapo should take the lead. But for some reasons, he was not invited. Perhaps because of his rebellion records against the government. This is where I'm going. Every international stars pay homage to Fela Anikulapo on that stage before they perform. In other words, Fela's name was literally mentioned throughout the concert. This is where it becomes more interesting. When it was time for Hugh Masekela to perform, he mounted the stage with one of Abamieda's biggest hits. The atmosphere changed as he played the hook on his trumpet. The audience let it loose with noise and excitement. How else can we describe enigmatic, charismatic, and mesmerizing performance? The presence of Abamieda was literally introduced by those international stars. Brandy and Beyonce once said, I listened to some Fela songs in the quest of making my album. There is no jazz festival across the world between early 70s to mid 80s which doesn't have Fela on stage. Many Nigerian musicians can't tell their success story without mentioning Fela. He introduced many of them to international stage. The biggest Nigeria juju musician was introduced to Chris Blackway, the founder of Island Record, by Fela. Are you even aware that only Fela and his band members occupied an aircraft whenever he's traveling? If we should be talking about Fela's popularity, we won't leave here. Now to your second question. How was he an activist? Fela isn't just an activist by accident. He sucked that from the breast of her mother. Funmilayo Omolumeyiwa is a story for another day. Fela Anikulapo was the voice of your parents when fear gripped and wrapped them like a garbage. No musician is as confident and at the same time down to earth as Fela Anikulapo. By the virtue of his birth and family, he had the opportunity to join the ruling class. But the man Fela chose to live as a commoner. This is a man who had rejected many contracts without thinking twice about the benefit and gain. But every one of you comparing yourself to Fela, all your goals in life is centered around money, glamour, and luxury. Now to the last question. What is so special about his music? What a funny question. Anyway, I understand that music illiteracy is very high in Nigeria. So therefore, let me educate you. Music isn't as cheap as your favorite artist painted it. Fela was a multi-instrumentalist from strings horns to percussions. Tell me one particular instrument that your favorite artist can play well. Many of your so-called artists can't even balance on keys, and neither can they identify the right scale guiding their renditions. Anyways, thank God for autotunes and many other elements weave around modern technology. If not, many so-called musicians wouldn't have come close to microphone. Fela's knowledge and agility swim beyond the shore of music. Fela's life and work have been studied for over 5 decades in world museums, libraries, and universities. This is not just an opinion, it is history. Ẹyẹ fọwọ́lẹ́rán wà láìmọ̀ kan tí ń kọ̀tàn. Ẹyẹ pàkájàwòrán aláìláròjinlẹ̀ tó fẹ́ tútàn kọ́. Toró ohun tó bá ti wí ńlá wọn mọ yín máa kà. Ẹ̀bí wọn kọ́ toró ròmádìyẹ wọn ò máa wòdì. Àmẹ́bí ẹ̀yin ìyá ẹ̀ tó màṣá ni tẹ́ ẹ̀ bá tètè gún ní kẹ́sẹ́.